Hello students and welcome to this explanation on flexed budgets, and this is quite a good example. This question is called question 6 and it says that Beaver Limited uses flexible budgeting systems and performance reporting in the planning and controlling processes, and the following information is provided to you for March 2013. So in this question, you can see that you were given two different levels of budgeting, and you were given an actual cost, and then you were given a variance that they randomly calculated. And the required part says that you need to prepare a revised performance report. All right, so the most important thing about flexed budgets is to realize that we have different types of costs. We have a variable cost, we have a fixed cost, and we have a mixed cost. So I'm just going to open my Excel spreadsheet and use it as an explanatory tool. Just want to change this to a bit bigger. Apparently this doesn't want to work. There we go. Right, so we have what we call a fixed cost, we have a variable cost, and we have a mixed cost. Right, so a fixed cost is very easy to detect because if you simply look at your question and you look at the budgeted information given, not the actual cost, just the budgeted, you will find that the fixed costs are the same at every budgeted level. So rent is a fixed cost and depreciation is also a fixed cost because you can see with the bare eye, the amount is the same, irrelevant of the budgeting units. So here under fixed cost, we will simply say that this is it is the same at every budget level. For variable cost, we need to do a calculation. And the formula for variable cost is the amount divided by the activity. And in this question, you will find that the activity related here is the number of units produced. So 40,000 units will be the activity here, 60,000 units will be the activity in the next column. So we need to do a calculation to determine if a cost is variable. So let's, for example, take direct labor. So the rand value of direct labor is 360,000. And it's for 40,000 units. So if I test it at the first budgeted level, I'm going to say that is 360,000 divided by 40,000 units of activity, and I get 9 rand. If I test it at the other level, which says that 540,000 for 60,000 units, what do I get if I apply the same formula? I say 540,000 divided by 60,000 units, and I get 9 rand as well. So if you apply this formula, the amount divided by the activity, under both of the activity levels or both of the budgets given or provided, and the amount is the same, then this is a variable cost. So the variable cost is 9 rand. Then there is a mixed cost. So a mixed cost consists of a calculation that you need to do, and one portion is variable and one portion is fixed. So for the mixed cost, an example of a mixed cost in this question is electricity. And you know that it is a mixed cost because if you do the variable cost test, in other words, you would say amount divided by activity, you do not get the same amount. So if we look at electricity, for example, it's 4,500 rand for 40,000 units. If I apply the formula for variable cost, I get at the first budgeted level 11 cents basically. If I test at the second budgeted level, I'm going to say that's 6,500 divided by 60,000. So if I say 6,500 divided by the 60,000 units of activity, I get 10 cents, 10.8 cents basically. So you can see that this is not the same. And because those two answers differ when you apply the variable cost formula, you know that you recognize that this is a mixed cost. All right, how do we handle a mixed cost? How do we split a mixed cost? All right, so it's quite easy. We use what we call the high-low method. All right, so the high-low method works as follows. I'm going to say highest and lowest, and I'm going to list the activity and I'm going to list the amount. So for electricity, or at all different levels, the highest budgeted activity is 60,000 units, and the lowest budgeted activity is 40,000 units. So please make sure that this is the budgeted activity and the budgeted amount. The budgeted amount for electricity, because we now recognize that electricity is a mixed cost, so therefore we will apply it in this next step. So the electricity for 60,000 units was 6,500, and it was, I believe, 4,500 for the lowest activity. Now I'm going to calculate the difference, and the difference is calculated by saying highest minus the lowest. Right. And when I have a difference, I can continue and I can calculate the variable cost. Because you will remember, mixed cost has two parts. It has a fixed cost part and a variable cost part. So after calculating this difference, I can go and calculate the variable cost. And the formula of variable cost is amount divided by activity. And in this instance, I'm now going to use the differences that I've just calculated. So I'm going to say it's 2,000 Rand divided by 20,000 units of activity. And that gives me a variable cost of 0.1 or 10 cents, if you wish. So here I said it is the 2,000 Rand, the amount, divided by the 20,000 units difference. Right, then I can calculate my total variable cost. And I do this by timesing by the highest activity. So I'm going to take the calculation that I've just done. I'm going to take this 10 cents and I am going to multiply it by the highest activity. So what was the highest activity? 60,000 units. So I'm going to say 0.1 times the 60,000 units highest activity, and I get my total variable cost is 6,000. Then I still need total fixed cost, and this should add up to total mixed cost. So total variable cost plus fixed cost gives us total mixed cost. So, and we already have the highest mixed cost. So here we need to go and look for the highest mixed cost. And the highest mixed cost, if I look at my information above, was 6,500. And now I can calculate my fixed cost because this plus this should give us that one. So I'm going to say 6,500 minus 6,000. So that's going to be 6,500 minus the total variable cost, and that gives me a fixed cost of 500 Rand. And now I have split my costs. So how do I formulate? The next step is that I need to make a formula that I can go and apply in my calculation for the performance report. And the formula will then simply be 0.1, your variable cost that you calculated per activity. So it's going to be that 10 cents times your activity. And you're going to add to that your fixed cost of 500 Rand. So this is your formula for the mixed cost in calculating your electricity. Right, so now let's approach or let's try the performance report. So in a performance report, what I like to do is, even though it is not per se part of the layout given, I like to leave spaces just for calculations. So this will be my calculation for variable cost. This will be my calc for fixed cost. And then I will continue to have my actual performance report elements. And the performance report elements is then the actual activity at the budgeted cost, and then your actual result, and your what we call your variance. Right, so the first type of cost that I see, and this is now your actual answer. So everything up till here was simply an explanation of identifying whether this is a fixed cost, a variable cost, or a mixed cost. Right. So now in actually answering the required part, here goes. The first one that we see is direct material. All right. So for direct material, I need to figure out, is this a variable cost, is it a fixed cost, or is it a mixed cost? And if I take the 480,000 and I divide it by my activity level of 40,000 units, I get 12 Rand. If I take my 720,000 divided by the 60,000, I get 12 Rand as well. So if I divide this by that activity, I get 12 Rand, and the same there, which means that this is a variable cost. So I'm going to fill in, I am on direct material, and the variable cost that I've just calculated is 12 Rand. If it's a pure variable cost, there will be no fixed cost. Then we're going to take our actual activity times our budgeted cost. So we're going to say, for the variable cost, we go to our actual column and we will see our actual activity was 45,000 units. So I'm going to say the 45,000 units times the budgeted cost, and the budgeted cost I just calculated, it's 12 Rand. Then our actual results are given, they cannot be changed, and it was 567. So 567,000. And now I am at the variance part. So I need to ask myself, is it good or is it bad? Because you must always indicate whether it is a favorable or an unfavorable variance. So let's see, this is a cost. Material is something that I buy. So I can take this amount and consider that to be the budget, where this is the actual result. So I was allowed to spend 540,000. I really spent 567,000. So that means that I overspent. So this must be a U, unfavorable. And the difference by which it is unfavorable is 27,000 Rand. Right, the next type of cost I have is direct labor, and we covered direct labor. Direct labor was a variable cost, because if we divide the 360 by 40,000 units activity, I get 9 Rand, and if I divide the 540,000 of the budget by the 60,000 units, then I also get 9 Rand. So it's the same at every budgeted level, which makes it a variable cost. So I'm going to say the variable cost is then 9 Rand. There is no fixed cost because it's a pure variable cost. Then for the activity, the actual activity, again, the actual activity was 45,000 units. Times that by the 9 Rand, and I get 405. The actual results I must go and look up. I cannot calculate them. I must go and see what the actual results were. It's 420. So 420,000. Again, I need to ask myself, this is labor. Labor is something that we pay for. Salaries are expenses. And if I look at my budget, I was allowed to spend 405,000. I actually spent 420, so I overspent, and this must then be U, unfavorable. And the difference between these two amounts is 15,000. The next type of cost is indirect labor. I beg your pardon. And now we must go and test again and see if it is a variable cost, is it a fixed cost, is it a mixed cost. It's definitely not a fixed cost because it's not the same at every level. So let's see, if I take the 24,000 and I divide it by the budgeted activity level of 40,000, I get 60 cents. If I take the 36,000 and I divide it by 60,000, I get 60 cents. It's the same at every level, therefore it must be a variable cost. So I'm going to fill in, it's 60 cents. This is a pure variable cost, so therefore there is no fixed cost. Then the activity, it was 45,000 units at 60 cents. What did we actually spend? We actually spent 30,000. So again, this is going to be unfavorable, because I'm going to say I was allowed by the budget to spend on indirect labor 27,000 Rand. I spent 30,000, so I overspent by 3,000. And this is negative because you should always stay within the budget or spend lesser than the budget to have a favorable variance. Right, next one we have indirect material. So let's test again. 40,000 Rand divided by 40,000 units should give you 1 Rand, and 60,000 Rand divided by activity level of 60,000 units should also give you 1 Rand. So therefore it's 1 Rand at every budgeted level, which makes it a variable cost. So I'm going to say indirect material, and the variable cost is 1 Rand. There is no fixed cost. Then it's going to be the budgeted activity level, 45,000 units at 1 Rand. And we need to go and look up, what did we spend on the material? We spent 50,000. So we're going to say 50,000. Again, this is going to be unfavorable. The budget allowed me to spend 45,000. I actually spent in real life 50,000. So therefore I overspent, which is negative by 5,000. Right, next one, we have maintenance and supervision. So I can see this is not a fixed cost because it differs at the levels. So if I say 22,000 Rand, 22,000 Rand divided by 40,000 units, I get 55 cents. And if I say 32,000 Rand divided by 60,000, I get 53 cents. So therefore, these two differ. If you divide these two, you do not get the same amount, which makes it a mixed cost. So for maintenance and supervision, we need to go and do a split calculation. So let's see how we do that again. So for maintenance, it must be a mixed cost because at the two budgeted levels, if you do your division, the answer is not the same. So we're going to apply the high-low method. So this is now a support calc. This is highest. This is lowest. And we're going to say we need to calculate the difference. Right, and we always have an activity and we have an amount. So if I look at the activities, of course, the highest activity is the 60,000 units. The lowest activity is the 40,000 units in this question. If I go to the maintenance and supervision, I see the lowest is 22, the highest is 32. So I'm going to fill it in. So it's 32 highest amount, 22 lowest amount. And I'm just going to calculate the difference by saying high minus low. Right, then I can calculate my variable cost per activity. And that formula again is the amount divided by the activity, and I'm going to use the difference. So I'm going to say it is the amount of 10,000 Rand divided by 20,000 difference in the activity. And that gives me 50 cents. Now I want to calculate my total variable cost. And that I do by timesing by the highest activity. So I'm going to take that 50 cents, which I just calculated, and I'm going to times that by my highest activity, which was 60,000 units. And I get 30,000 Rand. Then I know I still need my total fixed cost. and that needs to add up to my total mixed cost. So the total mixed cost, I also take the highest mixed cost, and that I can just read from the table that I set here. And the highest mixed cost was 32,000. The variable cost plus the fixed cost must add up to the mixed cost. So therefore, I'm going to say this is then 32,000 minus 30,000. Which gives me a fixed cost of 2,000. So if I now formulate, I'm going to say my formula is now, it is 50 cents times the activity plus a fixed cost of 2,000 Rand. So to formulate, I use that answer and I use that answer. Going back to my calculations, or to my performance report rather, I'm going to say maintenance and supervision. And my variable cost will be the 50 cents and my fixed cost will be the 2,000 Rand. So to calculate my actual activity and budgeted cost, I'm going to say this is 50 cents times the 45,000 units plus the 2,000 Rand fixed cost. What did I actually spend? If I go to the actual cost column, I see I spent 25,000. Right, so again, it's unfavorable because I overspent. I was allowed by the budget to spend 24,500. I actually spent 25,000. I overspent, and therefore it's 500 Rand, which is now unfavorable. I just want to insert more rows here. All right. We're on the next one, which is electricity. And electricity we did calculate. So if I go to my earlier calculation and explanation, we saw that it is variable cost of 10 cents and a fixed cost of 500 Rand. So I'm going to fill that out. So I'm going to say electricity. And that was 10 cents variable cost and 500 Rand fixed cost. So to calculate the budget, I'm going to say it is 10 cents times the activity level, or the actual activity level of 45,000 units, and to that I'm going to add the 500 Rand fixed cost. Then what did I really spend? If I go to electricity, I spent 5,500. So 5,500, again, this is going to be unfavorable because I overspent. The budget allowed me to spend 5,000 Rand. I spent 5,500 Rand, and I overspent 500 Rand. Right, next we are on the fixed costs. So the fixed costs are the easiest ones to identify. So rent and depreciation will be fixed costs because you can see with the BI that they are the same at all budgeted levels. So what you will simply do is say we have, for example, depreciation. And here it's a pure fixed cost, so I don't show any calculations. I simply say at every budgeted level it must be the same. So in my budget it must also be 50,000. So there's my 50,000. What did I really spend? Actual cost was 50,000. And therefore the variance is nothing. And you can't fill in favorable or unfavorable if the actual or the budget and the actual results are the same. You just leave it because it's not unfavorable or favorable. It was precisely within the budget. And then the last one that I skipped was the rent. So for the rent, again, it's a fixed cost. So I'm going to say for rent at all budgeted levels, it's 18,000. And what did we actually spend? 18,900. And then I'm again going to say that this is unfavorable. I was allowed to spend 18,000 by the budget. I spent 18,900. So I overspent 900 Rand, which is unfavorable. All right. So that was a quick explanation on how to approach the flexed budgets and the performance reports. It's quite simple if you understand that you have to determine whether the costs that are given fall within the fixed cost category, the variable cost, or the mixed cost category, of which the mixed cost, as can be observed, cause you to have to do the most calculations to be able to split your calculation into variable and fixed. All right, I hope that this video will help you a little bit. And if you have any questions, you can stop by my office. Good luck in the preparation for your tests.